evidence-based learning method to study for USMLE and get high score. My name is Julius Haryadi. I'm internal medicine physician working here in the US. Now, if you're studying USMLE, you may have realized there's so many resources out there and then you get confused on which one you need to pick and choose as the best resource. But let me tell you, actually, even though choosing the best resource is important, it's not as important as how we use that resource, how we study that resource and master it in order to get high score. Although now we encounter another problem. The other problem is when you check on YouTube and learn from other tutors, advisors, read Reddits for people who has achieved high score, they provide you some variation, the different method to achieve the high score. They use different ways to use the resources in order to get the scores that they got. It makes sense because people will teach you what they believe that has been working for them. But as somebody who has achieved good score myself, I got 258 in step 1 and 261 in step 2 CK. I have tutored students thousands of hours. I was also interested to know how the other people able to achieve high score. And it turns out that we're not that much different after all. There is a slight variation on the study schedule. There is a slight variations on the resources that we use, but the fundamental principles stays the same. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to give you my top 3 evidence-based learning method to study for USMLE. So let's unpack. The first one is the concept of minimal resource. It has been shown that if you use minimal resource, the score will be higher compared to people use multiple resource. So it's important to use just minimal resource and master it rather than getting multiple resource. It will get you confused because it gives you so much perspective of the same thing and then not master it at all. Please note, I want to emphasize one thing here. It doesn't mean that, okay, from now on, I'm just gonna use first aid and I'm not gonna do anything else. No, that's not what I meant, okay? The key of minimal resource is not to overlap resource. For example, if you have used Pathoma for your pathology, there's no need for you to watch pathology sections of Boards and Beyond because that would be overlapping resource. Same thing for a question bank. If you have done USMLE Word for your main question bank, I don't think it's necessary for you to do a second question bank like Amboss. It's more important for you to have UWorld and master it really well rather than doing a second question bank. Another thing that I want to emphasize is this. I believe it's okay to do a supplemental or additional resource for the subject that you're weak at. So for example, if you have done UWorld and then you see that your ethics are kind of weak, it's okay to supplement that with Amboss ethics questions. If you have watched biostat videos from Boards and Beyond, it's okay to supplement that with additional videos like Randy McNeil's YouTube video for the biostat. So the key for minimal resource is 1, not to overlap, and 2nd, to supplement for the subject that you're weak at. Now we move on to the second evidence-based learning method, which is focus on the problem-based strategy. Basically, it has been shown that compared to watch videos or read books or listen to podcasts, answering questions, solving problems give you the best learning experience. So I would like to emphasize one thing here. This means that it's highly recommended to incorporate question bank early in your study. Once you complete a subject or once you complete a topic, then it's important to test yourself on that particular subject or topic and see if you understand it. Do not complete all the videos of Boards and Beyond and then you do the question bank later. Try to do the question bank as early as possible. Now, I would like to explain one thing that's very important here. Does that mean if problem-based learning is the best learning method, I don't actually need to watch videos, I don't actually need to use first aid, I don't need to use anything else, I can just jump to USMLE World or Amboss and then learn from there and then get high score? Maybe. In some cases, it would work most of the time for step 2 CK. I don't think it's going to really work for step 1, and I want to explain to you why. I think this is the best time for me to explain about it. So it all comes down to your starting point. When people going for step 2 CK, usually they will have the same starting point. They have completed and passed step 1. So it could make sense to jump directly to your world and then start to questions and then build your information from there and then get high score. But for step 1, people start from multiple different starting points. So for example, if you're a US grads, then you might have done the undergrads and you have done 2 years, I believe, of medical school, and the curriculum already tailored toward the USMLE subjects. So then it makes sense to do the UWorld only during your dedicated study time. If you are USIMG, come from Caribbean, that also tailored toward the USMLE, and it makes sense to actually jump to UWorld and then study from there. But for a non-USIMG, we have multiple different starting points. There are people who are students, there are people who just graduated, there are people who start residency or in the middle of residency and then decide to come to the US to study. Because of the multiple different starting point, it becomes difficult to just generalize and say you can just jump to UWorld and study from there. Another point to be made is the curriculum. People that comes from a different medical school from the foreign countries have a different medical curriculum. Me, for example, I'm from Indonesia and I have a completely different medical curriculum than the US. I never heard about severe combined immunodeficiency, adenosine deaminase deficiency, Last-Nyhan syndrome, and all those before I study for USMLE, because we just have a medical curriculum. Or even if I have heard about the receptors or collagen synthesis before, it was not emphasized in my medical curriculum. They don't think this is a high yield, or they don't think this is important. Do you know what my medical curriculum thing is important? Worms and TB. We learned that like the whole year, first 2 years, we just keep coming back to the lab and then look up the worms under the microscope and the TB. While this topic is not seen as high yield in USMLE. So even though I think I did my basic science really well when I did my medical school with a different curriculum and different emphasis on what's low yield and what's high yield compared to medical US curriculum, it doesn't make sense for me to actually just jump to USMLE World and start to do questions. I need to build my knowledge from the ground up using videos like Boards and Beyond, Kaplan, and any other videos, then do the questions afterward. Make sense? Now, before we move on to the third and final evidence-based learning method, I have a gift for you who's hanging out with me today. I have USMLE test-taking strategies video series that I crafted myself after thousands of hours tutoring USMLE. I have a general approach to USMLE questions, elimination strategies, 50-50 strategies, and time management strategies. It's all free. You can go to my website www.juliusharyadi.com/USMLE test-taking strategies. I will also put the link down below. I firmly believe that if you apply and use and master those skills, you will have higher USMLE scores. Now, the third one is active learning and spaced repetition. So this is why I love Anki, because Anki actually allows me to do both the active learning and spaced repetition. By putting a question on a flashcard, it forced me to answer that questions, hence an active recall. I actually put a video about how to create effective Anki cards that will allow you to get high score in USMLE. Got my Anki triple triad method. You can check that video out. Now, I understand some of you don't like Anki. Some people feels that the interface looks boring. You prefer using the USMLE World flashcard instead, or Notion or Google Spreadsheet. Actually, it does not matter. The fundamental principle stays the same. That is, you need to have active learning. So it also doesn't matter whether you are visual learners or readers or audio or kinesthetic, you need an active learning experience. And the spaced repetitions as well, that is very important for memorization, especially in USMLE where the materials are really large and there's a lot of things that you need to memorize, and you cannot really rely on the concept alone. There's a lot of things that you just have to memorize that way, like side effects of medications. There are things that are just doesn't make much sense, and there are name of medications that there is no reason why they name it that way, but you just have to memorize it. Those are the 3 top evidence-based learning methods to study for USMLE and give you high score. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you found this valuable. Now let me know down in the comment, have you used all these 3 evidence-based learning methods to study for USMLE? And if you have other evidence-based learning method that you found has been useful for you, you can share it with us using the comment down below so we can all learn together. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again in the next video for more USMLE and residency matching tips. Bye.